I do feel the need to make a brief disclaimer. This album has absolutely no breakdowns. No one in the band is vegan straight edge. There are no mosh calls. So do come into this with a grain of salt. Akhlys, The Dreaming Eye. This is one of my favorite records ever, so I feel like that's probably a disclaimer I should just go ahead and make. I'm probably going to be raving about it the entire time. Akhlys is a one-man, well, technically it's a two-man project. I think it's just a guest drummer. It's spearheaded by multi-instrumentalist, vocalist Naz Alchemeth. They're based in Colorado, and Naz Alchemeth is also in Nightbringer, Bestia Arcana, and a number of other great black metal projects that you're probably familiar with. I guess what really sets Akhlys apart is that it's just this hyper atmospheric, but still well-produced 45-minute experience. There's 5 tracks on this thing. One of them is entirely ambient. The closer track is an entirely ambient track. And then the other 4 are just these like long form, super reverb driven, but also very riff centric black metal compositions. So the first track on this thing is called Breath and Levitation. I think it's about 9 minutes in length, and it sort of just feels like, descending into an uneasy sleep, I guess would be a good way to describe it. The entire album is sort of centered around the experience of night terrors, just having like nightmares and sort of almost these out-of-body terrifying experiences that you have no control over. As far as I'm aware, that's the concept behind the entire album. And that's really what this first track kind of invokes, this experience of descending into a sleep that you almost would rather not be taking. There's just these, lightning fast blast beats, just this like one note droning tremolo riff that sort of devolves and like expands at the same time into this really catchy like melody. It's got this intangible quality to it that you kind of just have to listen to understand. But I mean, I know a lot of people who genuinely love this record, maybe not as much as me, but they love this record because it's just got this like this magic to it. It almost captures that like In the Nightside Eclipse type essence, where it's just very magical, very otherworldly, magical in a dark sense, but there's definitely something. There's a lot of intangibles on this record. So the second track, Tides of Oniric Darkness, is one of my favorite songs ever written, ever. The first riff on that song is just unbelievably mean, aggressive, so good. But it's still, got this really atmospheric quality to it. And the entirety of that track is just so dark and menacing, and it's so aptly named. Tides of Oniric Darkness is just like exactly what this thing evokes. You genuinely feel like you're just having this fucking nightmare that you can't wake up from. Third track, Consummation, I believe, is 16 minutes or 15 minutes. It's really long track. It's got this ambient passage at the beginning, and then it starts to blossom out into a slower but still super atmospheric black metal track. And the rest of the record is basically just this like expansive soundscape almost of these riffs that just weave in and out of each other. You kind of grasp onto a melody, and then it starts to almost fade out of your perception, and then arise back when you're not paying attention or when you're least expecting it. And then, as I mentioned before, the last track is just 4 or 5 minutes of like noise. And I think actually the first release from this project was an entirely ambient release. So I think it kind of makes sense in a way, because this is a very atmospheric project. And it makes sense that it was initially a dark ambient project that kind of became this dark ambient black metal project. So I'm pretty sure they are in the studio right now recording a follow-up album. I'm incredibly excited. I'm pretty sure that'll be my album of the year, probably next year when it comes out. But I mean, if you haven't heard this thing, I know, it's not necessarily an unknown album, but I just wanted to really share my specific passion for this one. So if you haven't checked it out, you should. And if you do check it out because of this review, let me know what you think. And thank you for watching.